I would really love a big slouchy Bottega hobo bag myself, but I'm not willing to pay over $1,000. Now you have to pay like 800 bucks for a trash condition mini HL, and I'm just like, nah. Like, the vintage ones have become so overpriced that it's just not worth it because they're so trashed. You may as well pay an extra $1,000 to get a pristine one. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Jess. Sorry I haven't changed my background display in a while. I realized that my bags have been in this position for like 20 videos, so I'm gonna do some visual merchandising later. But anyways, let's talk about vintage bags versus new bags. You know, when a bag from a designer brand is reissued, usually it goes up on the pre-love market because more people are trying to find cheaper alternatives. I found that some styles have recently been released by big brands like Dior, Louis Vuitton, Chanel, and that has definitely boosted up the pre-love prices. So I'm just going to ask you guys today, open discussion, whether you think it's worth buying the vintage version of one of these bags or the new version. So first bag I'm going to discuss is the Gucci Diana shoulder bag, which is currently 4,279 Australian dollars. Now, the Gucci Diana bag is a bag that was kind of made iconic. Princess Diana was seen wearing it. Anything Princess Diana wears becomes iconic. And, well, I just love the beautiful structured handles of this bag. But recently I've noticed that Gucci have issued a shoulder bag Diana bag. And it looks very similar to vintage versions that you can find on eBay for like literally under $200. And I'm like, guys, what do you think is more worth it? Is it worth getting the new in boutique one? Because don't get me wrong, buying a new fresh bag is sometimes, it just feels a lot more luxurious than buying a vintage bag. You know, vintage bags can sometimes have dirty old tissues inside and the previous owners, I don't know, residues in there, and that's kind of gross. But that being said, you can also find vintage bags in really good condition, and sometimes you can get them restored at the bag spa, freshened up. So I feel like in this case, honestly, if you just want to go with the trend, honestly, the vintage is the way to go. It is so much cheaper. Not only that, but it's very sustainable to buy vintage as well. And I think in this case, hop on the bandwagon. Like, Gucci Bamboo is such an underrated category of vintage bags, and I just feel like you can find so many vintage Gucci pieces for absolute steals compared to the current retail price, which has gone up a lot in the last few years. Next, I noticed on Instagram the other day that Dior have issued a new saddle bag, which is very similar to their vintage pochette styles. It's called the Dior Saddle Shoulder Bag, and it's a really small bag. It's this little pochette with the leather, the little D dangle. It's 3,400 Australian dollars. And I thought, you know, immediately I was like, okay, surely on the pre-love market there is cheaper versions of this. But I think because the Dior saddle has gone up in popularity so much over the years, it is getting really hard to find really good value Dior pieces on the pre-love market. Like, I remember back in the day, you could pick up one of these pochettes for like definitely under $300, but now it's getting really hard to find any decent ones for under $1,000, and they tend to be in this canvas material, which doesn't wear very well, and it's really hard to find like a leather version of this like pochette style. So I think in this case, honestly, it's really hard to find a replacement for this miniature pouch thingy because the new one is a lot more elevated and it is a bit expensive for a little pochette, but the vintage ones are really just a whole different vibe. And I think in this case, honestly, some of the vintage pieces, in my opinion, are actually a bit overpriced now because they've gained so much popularity, and you're better going off for like something a little bit undiscovered. So I think the point in which you can find a bargain saddle bag, it's getting harder. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's getting harder. So perhaps in this case, you'd want a fresh and boutique one. But let me know what you think. Next category in the vintage market that I feel like is up and coming, undiscovered, is old school Miu Miu matelasse bags. Miu Miu matelasse was the biggest thing like in the early 2000s. I loved Miu Miu back in the day, you know, obsessed. And a lot of these older Miu Miu bags really do not hold value at all, perhaps because it is like a sub-brand of Prada. It's not as desired. I don't know what it is. It's usually seen as like a cheaper version of Prada, a more young version of Prada. But especially with the pre-love bags, they tend to drop in value quite a lot. And on the pre-love market, you can pick up some really amazing matelasse bags. They do look a little bit dated. They have more over-the-top hardware But comparing to the newer day matelasse bags, for example, there is one currently for around 4,300 Australian dollars. Comparing to this, I mean, if you just like the Miu Miu matelasse look, it is worth picking up a bag for like under 300, I would say, compared to like 4,000. But let me know what you think. Obviously, and also, guys, because like Y2K aesthetic is like technically back, so you could kind of get away with buying one of these like old school Miu Miu bags. It's kind of actually more authentically the current trends. So I think Miu Miu, you can definitely pick up some amazing deals. Definitely compared to Dior. I think Dior, some Dior bags, honestly, you can find for such good prices, but it's definitely those styles that got discontinued and they weren't as iconic as like the Lady Dior, the saddlebag, those like random silhouettes that they would do back in the day. So Dior other bags you can find for really good deals. It's just that the saddlebag really blew up in popularity. Another thing that really blew up in popularity, I feel, is like the Bottega hobo bags, because I swear these were so much cheaper on the pre-love market like a few years ago, but now I'm finding it hard to really find a good quality one for under $1,000, which is crazy because Bottega really did not used to hold value at all. I remember years ago I picked up a Bottega camera bag on eBay for like $60. It was so cheap, and it was from Japan. It was a little worse for wear. It was really worn out. And the thing to note with these like lambskin woven bags is that some of them can get quite worn out because that leather is quite supple. So it is good to try and find one in good condition just because it looks more expensive if it looks a bit more pristine. But comparing to the current retail prices of Bottega, yeah, you can make a saving on the pre-love market for sure, but I think it's a little bit of you have to hunt quite hard to find something that is worth it. Like I saw in Looks It Forward and a hobo bag sold for around 800. I think that's a really good deal because the current retail price of like the large hop bag is 6,400 Australian dollars. So yeah, that's a significant saving. If you can find something older for like a really good deal, like under 1,000, I think why not? Like may as well get it. Actually, I would really love a big slouchy Bottega hobo bag myself, but I'm not willing to pay over 1,000. And also, guys, I'm trying to be on shopping ban, but honestly, if I had to like splurge on a bag, the Bottega hobo bags I think are really practical, really chic, quite luxury, whatever, and it's really a kind of comfort bag trend as well, like wearing those big slouchy bags. So yeah, perhaps you can find a Bottega bag for a really good deal in a hobo style, but I do think that they've gained popularity quite significantly over the years. And then the Louis Vuitton Nano Speedy. Now, the Nano Speedy, I would say, is based on the vintage Speedy HL, and the Nano Speedy currently retails at $2,890 for the monogram version. Now, if I go on eBay back in the day, now, honestly, this is so depressing thinking about this, guys, but like back in 2017, I swear you could get a mini HL plain monogram for definitely under $200. Like sometimes I would see it for that low, and they were in good condition. But now you have to pay like $800 for a trash condition mini HL, and I'm just like, nah. Like the vintage ones have become so overpriced that it's just not worth it because they're so trashed. You may as well pay an extra $1,000 to get a pristine one. So actually in this case, I would say it's all about the hunt. Like the mini HL, yes, it's cute, but the pre-love prices have gone up too much to justify it being worth it, particularly with the way that they age and the way the handles wear. So it's hard. Like I think if you can find it for a good deal, the vintage one is quite cute. You can add your own shoulder strap. The difference is with the newer one, they have the D-rings on the side, so it's a little bit easier to add a shoulder strap, but I would still say for a bag, it is rather expensive for what it is at 2,800, whatever it is. 2,890, it's like $3,000 for this little mini canvas bag. Like it is quite expensive. So if you can find like a cheaper alternative, maybe even some other monogram piece, Louis Vuitton monogram, some bags you can pick up for really good deals. But the Speedy HL is one of those styles, but that also became overhyped on the pre-love market and has definitely gone up significantly in value to the point where even trash condition ones are selling for quite big amounts, in my opinion, for what it is. Like you really don't want to spend that much for a trash bag, but yes. And finally, I wanted to touch on the Chanel Party Kelly. This is a style that was very hyped on social media. I think it retails from like 7,000 to 8,000 Australian dollars. Now, if you want to find the like exact kind of inspiration for this bag, the Party Kelly from the late 90s, these are really hard to find now. I did find one painted one on eBay for like a few thousand, which patent leather can also be a little bit risky pre-loved because it can get a bit sticky and, you know, I don't know, it's a bit expensive. And if you want to get the really cool Party Kelly bags, well, I noticed on Farfetch they're like 15,000, so that's also really expensive. So it's actually quite hard to find a Party Kelly bag for a good deal. Even if you're looking vintage, Chanel vintage has gone up significantly over the years. But category I noticed that was a bit more reasonable is the Chanel Kelly bags in like the caviar leather that look a little bit more like a cocoa handle, but it's like the vintage version. I think these you can pick up for like under 3,000. So it's a little bit more of a better deal compared to, you know, paying 8K in the boutique for a Party Kelly that's made out of this plasticky leather. I just think that like the old school caviar was a little bit more durable. You have that little gold plated hardware. Something about the vintage one I think is really classic and cool, and actually the vintage bags are quite durable. So if you can find one in good condition, it might be you might be better off buying that as opposed to the new Party Kelly bag. But you know, not everyone wants to buy vintage. I understand people want to buy the newest and cutest thing, freshest thing from the boutique, and sometimes it's really nice to be the first owner of a bag too. So definitely vintage is not for everyone, but I think it just depends on the bag. It depends on how much you want to invest into the bag, or if you just want to dabble into a trend, it's really good to find a cheaper alternative sometimes, whether it's vintage or not. It can be less risky to buy like a cheaper pre-loved bag under like $500 as opposed to investing $4,000 into a newer bag. So anyways, thanks for listening to me blab on today. I really blabbed on at the end there, but thanks for staying with me, and I'll talk to you guys on my next one. Bye!